Hey everyone, the new Jurassic World film, Jurassic World Rebirth, promises a return to the dino-sized thrills on the big screen in what's being pitched as the next chapter in the Jurassic franchise and this year's summer blockbuster. But does Rebirth deliver on breathing in some much-needed life into this franchise? So let's break it down and see if this is one that you might want to catch in the theater, stream at home, or maybe the franchise just needs to go extinct. So, in Rebirth, we're dropped into a world where dinosaurs are dying off. They're just not built for the Neo-Jurassic era, where the air and the food and the climate aren't suitable for their survival. The only places they seem to thrive now are in these zones near the equator or on remote desert islands that have this rich oxygen supply and lush vegetation that kind of mimics the prehistoric period. Meanwhile, public interest in the dinosaurs has also kind of fizzled out. No one really cares anymore. Their only remaining value, kind of medical experimentation. Surprise. Apparently, some of these dinos have genetic markers that could help cure heart disease, arguably the leading cause of death in humans. So, a sketchy biotech company called Genexa, or I don't know, was it Gen X? Kind of sounded like Gen X. I've already forgotten. Decides to hire a private team of mercenaries to collect blood and DNA from three specific dinosaurs on one of the last remote islands where they still live. What could possibly go wrong? Let me start by saying I don't remember a single character's name. Now, granted, I wrote down every character's name in my notebook, but the fact that I could walk out of that theater and not remember a single person's name is remarkable. And as I look back, these aren't really even characters, which I think is why their names didn't really stick. They were just roles, they were stereotypes, really. We've got the greedy corporate guy who bankrolls the whole mission, the tough as nails female black ops leader who's clearly in charge and clearly over all this nonsense, the attractive male scientist who has just enough morality to make things kind of complicated, the boat captain guy who's grizzled and feeling the weight of his life, the nameless girl who barely contributes anything to the story and could have been edited out, but someone kind of needed to die and be eaten early on in the movie. Then there's the security guy whose main job was to provide protection for everyone and to be the first guy that dies. Then there's the French speaking guy because I guess we needed an international person to add some international flair. And then there's the unlucky family who just happens to be on a family trip sailing through the area in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the family includes dad, little girl, big sister, and annoying boyfriend. That's the level of depth that we're dealing with here with these characters. And honestly, the moment each character showed up, I could pretty much guess who is going to live and who is going to die. And I'm telling you, if you play survival bingo during the intro scenes, you'll probably hit 99% accuracy. Character development is pretty much non-existent here. Everyone fits a trope. The corporate guy will betray the team by not giving them the full info. The scientist will have an ethical dilemma. The mercenary leader is a walking cliche of military toughness and humanitarian wrapped up in a female. And it just kind of just all of it is just like that. It just works that way and it doesn't feel natural. It just felt kind of set up, the whole thing. They're there to be put in peril. That's about it. No one really grows, no one surprises you, and no one earns their screen time in a meaningful way. The performances weren't necessarily bad, not at all. They're just functional, like background players in a video game, so that we can go see some dinosaurs on the IMAX screen, which definitely had its entertaining moments. Now, the premise had potential. There's something interesting in the idea that dinosaurs, once the centerpiece of awe and fear, are now obsolete. However, They're dying out because the world has moved on and created such a foreign, toxic environment that these creatures just can't survive. That's kind of sadly poetic. It makes humanity kind of the Neo-Jurassic era's meteorite in a way. But the film doesn't really explore that topic. It just uses it as a pretext to place the dinosaurs in this remote, hard to reach region of the world in order to set up a story that sends people into danger for profit, of course. Then there's the medical angle because, yeah, there's always a medical angle in these kind of films in the Jurassic franchise. The whole movie centers around harvesting dinosaur DNA to cure heart disease. But in a world where Ozempic and Mounjaro, among other drugs, are already revolutionizing how we treat metabolic disorders, possibly even staving off heart disease already, this plot line already feels kind of outdated. Like the screenwriters wrote it before those drugs existed in this kind of capacity. And then when it went into production, they forgot to update the script. It would have been smarter to pick a more generalized disease like cancer that we're always going to be struggling against, it seems like. Although that's been done to death in these kinds of films as well. So maybe something like a longevity drug, which is a real area of research right now that tons of money is getting poured into in order to keep the concept evergreen for a while. But no, they went with Dino Cure for heart disease. Probably the most compelling part of the film is the very beginning. We see the old research facility where the dinosaurs were still being engineered and tested back in the early Jurassic Park days. It has that eerie yet lively feel of science gone too far. And then something goes wrong, but not just oops wrong. It's one of those overly elaborate chain reaction disasters that feels like it belongs in Final Destination. One small accident triggers a cascade of events that unleashes the creatures. It's intriguing for a moment. And then the product placement for the trigger of the containment breakdown was actually kind of funny. It was also ridiculously predictable, but whatever. You know exactly how it's going to end. And the second it starts, and that's the problem. Rebirth never surprises us. It's the same old plot. If you've seen one Jurassic film, you've kind of seen them all. And this one follows the same pattern with zero deviation. Then again, I think we all know that everyone involved with this film, from the studio to the actors to the paying audience, is just there to see the dinosaurs. So maybe that's okay. All right, so let's talk about the real stars of this film, the dinosaurs. Because for a Jurassic movie, this should be the main attraction, right? But oddly enough, they're kind of forgettable. In Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs felt real, like actually real. They had weight and presence, they had texture. You felt like the actors were truly in the same space as these creatures and that they were in danger because the dinosaurs, they were right there. In Rebirth, the CGI is everywhere. Some of it is technically detailed, but the magic's kind of missing. It feels too perfectly manicured with a little bit of blur to create that feeling of spatial distance. The dinos feel like they were mostly added in post. The environments felt both real and lush, while also feeling like the wider shots were clearly built on volume walls or green screens. I don't know if they were, but that's how it came off. And it's kind of this weird combo. There's this invisible line between the real and the rendered, and this film never manages to blend it convincingly. I kept thinking to myself, yep, that's computer generated. That dinosaur is not real. And I mean, I know dinosaurs are not real, but in a movie like this, you do really want them to come off that way, like they are real. And the illusion, it just rarely clicked for me. And those things just didn't fall into place to create that sense of wonder and suspended disbelief that we get from the original Jurassic Park, the film that really kicked off this whole franchise. One thing I noticed, and I'm sure many of you will too, is how often they reuse John Williams' iconic Jurassic Park score, which is amazing. I am the biggest John Williams fan. I love that man. I love his music. And yes, it's still beautiful. And one really cool part is kind of the attractive doctor guy was also a clarinet player, and he actually got to play in the orchestra during this one part of the film where he's touching the leg of one of the dinosaurs. And had I known that when I went into the film, I think I would have felt like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I'm telling you this right now so that you get that extra connection between the doctor and the dinosaur in that moment. And yeah, again, the music is still beautiful. It really is. It still gives you chills and establishes this sense of possibility and delight. But it's kind of overused. They drop it in everywhere and eventually it loses its impact. I really wish they had done more to layer in a modern score with some rock songs or something that could have built up action or suspense, something that would complement what was on screen to build up that tension and kind of modernize the feel. Instead, it felt like they were banking on nostalgia to do the heavy lifting here. And that's kind of the theme of this whole movie. It almost feels like it could have been great, but not quite. It leans hard on things that we've seen before a million times. Iconic music, familiar plot beats, recycled visual cues, and while it all functions on a technical level, it never once really feels inspired. It's not a reboot, it's not even a continuation. It's more like a placeholder. Honestly, I kept wishing that some of the lab techs from the original base that was on this island that we see in the very beginning, I wish that some of those original lab techs had actually survived and learned how to live with the dinosaurs. Now that would have been something truly original and new, but it didn't happen. And I think of all the places, of all the islands, of all the possibilities, this film actually could have pulled off that twist because the people in the research facility were all experts on these dinosaurs and they knew them better than any living human being on the planet. And I think they could have found a way to make it work. And I wish they would have, even if a few people were all that was left. So, is this movie worth the price of the ticket? Well, here's the deal. If you're in the mood for dinosaurs dining on humans in a prehistoric like setting, no questions asked, no strings attached, then Rebirth will give you exactly what you want. You'll have fun with the dinosaurs. You'll get your creature feature thrills and you won't be bored. But if you're hoping for wonder, for a sense of discovery or tension, or even just a solid story with memorable characters, you're probably going to leave disappointed. This film really plays it safe, and I think a little bit too safe. It doesn't challenge the franchise, nor does it even earn its place within it, if you want my opinion, and it doesn't advance the story in any way. Jurassic World Rebirth, it's not terrible and it's not unwatchable either, but it's also not necessary. It feels like a franchise that's out of ideas, but is still trying to justify its existence. And it makes me think maybe the dinosaurs aren't the only ones struggling to survive in a world that's moved on. Maybe this franchise is too. And I think it just needs to take a break. If this review helped you figure out whether or not to see Jurassic World Rebirth or not, please do give this review a thumbs up and subscribe for more and share with a friend because I do think there is an audience for this film. People who love the dinosaurs are going to have a good time. And while you're here, hey, why not check out another review? Because this one is just for you. All right, see you all again soon. Until then, happy viewing. Bye for now.